it's Margarita Cardenas with a new season of Urban Traditions. Happy New Year, everyone. Well, today we're here to enlighten our audiences on Proposition 37. We had to vote on this in November and it didn't win. So we're going to show you some differences and also try to educate our audiences more on why it needed to win. We have a video to show you, and I hope that it will explain more. Let's go there.
50, we'll have to double our food production. For that, we'll need genetic engineering, advanced pesticides, and fertilizer. Lots of fertilizer. That's why at Agricon, we're working every day, hand in hand with farmers and their families. And don't you want to feed the world?
Messages like this one seem to be popping up everywhere, but who's really behind them? Turns out it's the corporations profiting from this way of farming, like those selling the pesticides, fertilizers, and chemicals. They're spending billions to warn us that their way is the only way, with industry groups like the Alliance to Feed the Future, whose members include the Association for Dressings and Sauces and the National Frozen Pizza Institute. But ask farmers who really know how to feed us, and you'll get a very different story. A heartbreaking and hopeful story that I've heard talking to hundreds of families like this one. 50 years of this myth and the lobbying dollars to support it have tilted the playing field to favor corporate-controlled chemical agriculture, giving farmers little or no support for any other path. So it's easy to understand a lot of farmers feel it's either get on board or get out. Getting on board means farmers stop practices that keep soil healthy and go for single crops. Livestock that used to be raised on the farm get crammed into polluting factories. To keep this unnatural system going, these farmers now buy expensive inputs, all from ever fewer corporations demanding ever-rising prices. It's a quick addiction. Pests become resistant, so you've got to use more chemicals. Livestock becomes sicker, so you've got to use more drugs. Soil loses its natural fertility, so you've got to use more chemical fertilizer. Then on the other side, when farmers try to sell their crops, they face only a few big buyers offering unpredictable prices. The economics don't work for long. Over the last 50 years, millions of desperate farmers have had to sign contracts with corporations that dictate their every move, or have lost their farms altogether. More and more farm income is concentrating at the top, so now only 1 in 10 U.S. farms can support a family. In many other countries, a similar thing is happening. Small farmers who buy into the promise that corporate agriculture is the solution often get trapped by debt and dependency. So yes, corporate agriculture is good for some folks, including some of the largest growers, but not the typical farm family. And that's strike one for this myth. But we have to feed the world, right? And if not this way, what choice do we have? A great one. We just don't see ads for it, and it certainly isn't getting the subsidies going to corporate ags. State-of-the-art sustainable farming ends this unnatural chemical addiction. It uses better practices, not ever more expensive purchases. Sustainable farmers build healthy soil by planting a variety of crops and rotating them. They raise their animals on the farm, not in cramped factories. They fertilize using compost and livestock or planting soil-nourishing crops. Healthier plants with good crop rotation also help keep pests in check without hurting the bugs we need, like those all-important pollinators. How does this choice impact everyone else? Massively. Industrial farms degrade and erode precious topsoil. 64 tons per acre are being lost every year in some spots in our heartland. They suck up huge amounts of water, a lot of it from deep underground, essentially irreplaceable. And they use millions of pounds of antibiotics, a practice that leads to dangerous new bacteria. They also produce toxic runoff that pollutes our rivers, our oceans, and us. The average American already has at least 13 pesticides in our bodies. And thanks to chemicals in the field, farmers and farm workers have higher rates of many cancers. So the sustainable farm is better for farmers and the environment. But can it really feed the world? Study after study is saying yes. Sustainable farms produce as well, and in drought years, even better. This is important news for small farmers who already grow 70% of the world's food. To increase production, they don't have to follow the chemical path. And the future we're all talking about feeding? The industrial farm requires more fossil fuels, water, and mined minerals, all stuff that will only get more expensive as it runs out. So down the line, the chemical path not only can't work for farmers, it won't be a choice at all. Corporate agriculture doesn't reliably grow more food in the future or even today. And that's strike two for this myth. But we still haven't looked at the biggest hole of all. They say we need to double food production or we'll go hungry. Really? We already have almost 3,000 calories a day available for every human being on Earth. More than enough. And that's after wasting a third of all food grown. And a lot of what is grown isn't food we eat directly. A third of the world's grain is going to livestock. In the US, our biggest crop is corn, but less than 1% of all corn planted is what we eat. Most goes to fuel or feed. So staying on this track, we could increase production and still have more hunger. To end it, everybody has to have the power to buy or grow the food they need. And that's what sustainable farming is all about. Strike three for this dangerous myth. So the next time someone who makes frozen pizza or toxic pesticides tells you there's only one way to feed the future, tell them their story is full of holes. The evidence is clear. Sustainable farmers prove we all can enjoy healthy food, and we each have power to make this happen. We can redirect our own food dollars and the billions in public money now going into the pockets of big ag. We can stand up and speak out for sustainable farmers here and around the world.
Well, today we have Dave Martinez with us. We're going to discuss, well, actually, he's an activist right now for the GMO. He's trying to educate people about GMOs. Hi, Dave. How are you doing?
Hi, doing great. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, it's great to have you back. Dave is a master composter, a master gardener. And Dave, how did this happen? How have you become an activist?
You know, back to that clip you showed, every time I see that, it gives me chills. It's so informative. The way I became an activist, which I never thought in my life I'd ever be, because I like to stay back in the crowd, but I've been a horticulturist for 30 years. And about 5 years ago, I took a class from a professor named Dr. Elaine Ingham, and she taught me about the soil food webs. After learning about these different products that we're putting into our food and realizing that I learned about it and other people don't even know about it, I thought it was really important that I tell people what a GMO is, what genetically modified organisms are.
So what are GMOs?
Well, a GMO, I want to make sure I say this correct. I wrote it down here. A GMO organism is developed in a lab, and it's forced into the DNA of an unrelated plant or animal. It could be a special trait, like making the fruits be more readily available on the market so that they look better. You know, more redder tomatoes, or it might be that they injected pesticides or herbicides into the food, which in turn ends up making our food a pesticide. In corn, they put in pesticides. They feed our pigs and our cows, and then we eat it. You know, it's not good. Did you see the movie King Corn?
No, I haven't seen that movie.
You know, in that movie, the farmers that grow the corn, they don't eat any of their own corn that they grow.
Oh, I did hear about that from an interview that I heard with Pam Larry, and they talk about this video. It's a video or a film, King Corn, and these farmers do not eat corn, and actually that is a caution right now. Don't eat corn or any soy. Oh, I love corn. What are we gonna do? I mean, you know, because that's they warn you, do not eat anything that's made with corn, corn chips, corn.
High fructose corn syrup. It's in all our sodas.
Yeah, sodas. Oh my God.
And you know what? A funny thing is, I was in Safeway the other day, and I was thirsty. I wanted to get a soda, and so I walked down the aisle, and as I looked down the soda aisle, I started thinking about the ingredients that were in the sodas, and I mysteriously saw corn stalks in the top of the aisle, because all the sodas have high fructose corn syrup. A majority of them have high fructose corn syrup. I'll drink a soda if it has pure cane sugar, but I think I'm going to stick to beer, wine, and water.
Oh, that sounds good. Well, I do drink ginger ale because I've seen it more like it's from ginger, and I think that's more healthy. But and it doesn't have caffeine. Does it have high fructose?
You'll have to check the label. Everyone's different. They do have organic sodas that you can drink that don't have high fructose corn syrup in them.
Yeah.
But you know what? You look at labels. I read more labels now than anything, and there's more time than not I read stuff, and as soon as I see corn, usually one of the first things on there, I'm putting it back on the shelf.
Don't eat corn. They warned us not to eat the corn, not to eat the soy, and how did Pam Larry get into this fight?
You know, Pam Larry, I met her at the, where was it? It was a Santa Rosa International Heirloom Expo, and she got up and talked. She's a very inspirational lady. She's a grandmother from Chico, a farmer, and she had some grandchildren that were having different health issues, and so she started looking into more what's in our food, and that's when she started finding out more about these GMOs. You know that they started putting the GMO products in the early 90s. So if you think about it, it takes a little while for things to act and activate, and so now things are just starting to hit. There's so many different health issues that are happening with people now.
Well, for one, there's more of this new, the restaurants are now have more gluten-free diets.
Yeah, well, you know why? Well, one of the health issues that the intake of GMO products can produce is celiac disease. I think I pronounced that correct. And celiac disease affects your digestive system, which means your body can't digest glutens. And how many people do you know are on these gluten-free diets now?
Many.
Bottom line, they just need to start eating more organic food. They need to eat raw organic food because they need that biology into their system.
What are the diseases? Because it's a microorganism. We haven't talked about this, but these GMOs are producing a microorganism that is literally killing us, and that's where all these different diseases are coming from. What other diseases are?
Well, you know, let me get back to you on the GMO. What some of the GMOs are doing, they're locking up certain nutrients in the soil, and they're locking up certain nutrients in the plants, and in turn, when the animals eat them, those nutrients are locked up in the animals too, and they can't be used. Some of those nutrients help us reproduce. You know, they artificially inseminate cows to have more cows. Now they're having to artificially inseminate more because they're not being fertilized by the eggs that they're putting in there, so they're having to put more eggs in there now. So if you think about it, we're eating those cows. I see my niece and my nephew and their kids, and I look at them and I see they're drinking sodas, and I'm wondering in my head, are these kids going to get to have children? Are they going to be able to reproduce? I think what's really going to end up happening is it's going to cost so much money to buy the drugs that you need to reproduce, that only the rich people eventually are going to have children, and the poor people won't be able to reproduce.
Oh, I think it's well, these corporations have very unscrupulous methods because they have used fear of fear that to label these foods will increase the costs, and that there's going to be food shortages, which, as it was shown in that video, those are total fallacies. Actually, it won't cost them anymore to do the food labeling because they have to do it anyway right now. Right, Dave?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And you know that more than half of our food right now, the seeds are grown from genetically modified organism seeds. Monsanto is trying to put a lock on all the seed banks so that they can be the only ones to have the seeds, so that they can sell them back to you. And you know, back to the farmers. Farmers have to buy their seeds every year from Monsanto. They have to buy the Roundup. They have to buy the pesticides. They have to buy the fertilizers. And so basically farmers aren't being sustainable. Before, a farmer used to be able to grow a crop, and he used to be able to put a portion of his crop aside for seed. And now he's sustainable. He has a crop for next year to grow. He doesn't have to buy anything from anybody, right?
Let's talk about that Roundup. I'm glad you brought that up because I saw that interview with Dr. Huber. Now, these corporations there has been scientists that have stood up and tried to make the public aware of what is going on, and they are have been vilified. Dr. Huber is one of them. He's one of the first that came up and discovered this new microorganism that is from that Roundup starter. Right, Dave?
Oh, definitely. You know, when I first learned about Dr. Huber, I got an email, and I didn't really read it right away. And then a couple days later, my daughter came up to me and said, "Dad, I need to write a paper on GMOs. What are GMOs?" And I'm like, well, you know what? I just got this interview from this Dr. Huber. Let's go sit down and read it. And so her and I sat down in front of the computer and read it word for word. And some of the sentences we had to go back and read 2 and 3 times so that way we could really understand what he was saying. And basically he was saying that, excuse me, Roundup doesn't actually kill a plant. What Roundup does is it locks up certain nutrients in the soil. Manganese, calcium, I can't remember all of them.
Zinc.
Yeah. And these are things that we need to reproduce for our bodies to function properly. And they're getting locked up in the nutrients in the soil. So I read this to my daughter, and it just, excuse me, it just moved me. That I think at that point is when I really realized that I'm an activist, because I'm reading this stuff, and there's a lot of people here that don't even know what this exists. In fact, Dr. Herbert, his interview kind of went viral on the internet.
Yes, it did.
And one of the problems with that was that he didn't go to his colleagues and present it to them. So if his colleagues didn't hear it right away, they're going to kind of, foo-foo it away. And if it goes straight to the public, they're not going to listen to it as much. But the public are standing out, and more people need to see this. In fact, you know what? You can go on YouTube and type in Dr. Don Huber Roundup, and you can check out his interviews. Really good, really enlightening.
Well, Don Huber, that's Huber. Check him out on YouTube and type in Don Huber and the Roundup Starter. Let's talk about that Roundup Starter, because that's a microorganism that Dr. Huber discovered that is literally killing us. The animals, they feed these nutrients. Well, it's a fake nutrient. It's not a nutrient.
It's an organism.
And it's an organism.
It's alive.
It's a live organism.
And it's scary. It's inside me and you already, because we've eaten it, because it's in our food. But Dr. Herbert, he also mentioned about some of the health issues that happen with this. And it's because, like I said, the nutrients are getting locked up in the soil from Roundup or from some of these GMOs, and so it's cutting down on our immune systems, which may cause these different health issues. Listen to some of these health issues. Birth defects, sudden death syndrome, infertility, kidney disease, irritable bowel syndrome, intestinal damage, autism, organ damage, toxic diseases, cancer tumors, Alzheimer's, food allergies, immune system dysfunctions. You know, my mom came to me the other day. She goes, "Doctor told me I have chronic hives." I go, "Mom, what are you eating? Change your food." When the doctor doesn't know what he's talking, well, I shouldn't say he doesn't know what he's talking about. When the doctor's not sure on what's going on, he'll tell you it's a chronic. Meaning, yeah, you got it. He's telling you, yeah, you got it. But how do you get rid of it? He doesn't know. He says, "Here, take this pill," which really is just a Band-Aid, because bottom line, what you got to do is, like I said before, you are what you eat. You have to eat the right things into your system.
Exactly. And we want to eat organic. Our local food, we were just talking about that because I'm scared. You know, I'm scared about what I'm intaking. They literally talked about the farmers are forced to buy these seeds from Monsanto, and it's the big farmers out in the Midwest. Those are the ones that produce the mass production of our food. I was asking Dave here, how about our coastal farmers here? Well, they're mostly organic, right, Dave?
A lot of them are probably organic, you know, because a lot of them are selling to the farmers market. I know that there are some counties in California that are GMO free, Mendocino, Sonoma, and Marin. But, you know, some of the foods that they're growing with genetically modified organisms that we need to watch out are corn, soy, canola oil, or I should say canola oil. Sorry, cottonseed oil, sugar from sugar beets. Did you even know that one?
Oh my God.
Hawaiian papaya. You know, I go to Hawaii, and on the island of Kauai, Monsanto grows their seed corn there. And so here you have this pristine island, and they have this genetically modified organisms just basically going to start taking over the environment. Who knows how long it's going to take? It's taken us how long? I said that the GMOs have been in our food since the early 90s, and now here it is, 2013, people are starting to get sick. They're starting to figure things out. Some of the other things that you need to watch out for, alfalfa. Alfalfa is really scary because some of these other things that you're growing, they're annuals, which means they're coming out of the ground. Alfalfa stays in the ground, which means it can spread farther and farther and farther. There's been alfalfa farmers that have infiltrated into the neighbor's alfalfa farm that aren't GMOs. So you know about all these crazy lawsuits. Something else that you got to watch out for, some zucchinis.
Oh,
and,
yes.
And crooked neck squash. I didn't know that one. Some corn in the cob, so you can eat your corn.
Okay.
Buy organic corn. Some tomatoes too. And the last thing I got here, don't eat any vegetable oil. Soy, lecithin, I believe.
Lecithin.
And of course, the number one on my list, don't eat any corn syrup.
Okay, no sodas. Watch, you have to read your labels. These corporations scared us into thinking that the food prices were going to rise, that there's going to be food shortages, and as I reiterated before, those are fallacies.
You know what I like to say? One more thing about the labeling.
Yes.
You just said that read more labels, right? What's wrong with adding a little bit more ink on there saying this is a product has GMO in it? How much is that going to cost?
They're already doing it, so it was a total crock when they said that, because they just want the money in their pockets. They have, as the farmers have to buy from Monsanto's yearly. Isn't that what you told me?
Well, what I was saying is basically the food drive we're on is going in the wrong direction. Small farmers are going bankrupt because, which means corporations, which big farming corporations, they're going to take over and they grow monocultures, just like that we saw in the video. And basically the farmers have to buy their seeds every year. And like I said before, they can grow their own seeds instead and be more sustainable. I mean, isn't that what we're about, being sustainable?
Sustainable, yeah. We really have to take care of Mother Earth. So Dave, how can we So people that are still resistant, as we, because there's still going to be, have you come up across any resistance from any friend or colleague against Proposition 37? Because you were gung-ho and
you know. Not so much on the coast, but I was back when the election happened, I was looking on Facebook, and a friend of mine was tired of all the electrical or election stuff that was on there, which I'd like to use a different word, but I won't, just good TV. But he said that he's not going to post any more political stuff. And I says, good, just remember to vote no on 37. And one of his friends popped in, and make a long story short, after about 5 communications back and forth, I come to find out the guy works in the agriculture field. Mm-hmm. And bottom line, for him, I could see it's more work. It's more paperwork for him. But in any business, in any job you have, you need to think about the people around you. Don't just do it for the money. Do it to help people. Do it for the environment. Help the environment. Don't just, rape and pillage. Give back and help nurture. The thing about genetically modified organisms is it's about killing things. And bottom line, we don't need to kill anything. We need to balance things.
We have a very sophisticated ecosystem. Each organism depends on each other, and you're killing that. And what, in essence, they're killing us. If we're ingesting this live organism, and that literally just that they can't get rid of, come on, it's very scary. So. What we want
now I became a activist.
Yes, and
this stuff gives me goosebumps.
Yes, I know. Well, what we have to do then is support our local organic farmers markets. They're all organic. They come from all over California, and get to know them. Ask them. What do they? Are they GMO free? What else can we do, Dave?
I think the strongest entity we have in the United States is the consumer. If the consumer wants organic and buys more organic, then the big companies are going to say, hey, wait, where's the money going? We need to follow the money. And they're the ones that are going to start making more organics. And we need to stop buying the food that's bad for us. We need to read the labels and read more about what's in our food. Did you know that Monsanto made Asian orange and DDT?
No.
This valley right here in Lindemar Valley was sprayed with DDT for probably 30 years when they were growing artichokes. And I can remember as a kid in the 60s, you'd go to the beach and there'd be lots of pelicans. Well, come in the 70s, you didn't see too many pelicans, because what was happening was that DDT was making the eggs soft, and so when the pelicans sat on them, they smashed them. Oh. So Monsanto's been around for a while, and they've been doing it to us for a while. Yeah. And we need to wake up and listen to what we really need for our bodies, and it's not poison.
Exactly. That's why we're here, to educate you, and befriend us on Facebook. Send us questions. Thank you, Dave, for coming.
One last thing.
Sure.
My son gave me a beautiful Christmas present this year. I can understand he's really listening to me. He gave me this poster of Frankencorn. As you can see, it's GMO infiltrated.
It's GMO infiltrated. This is what
scary.
You're really eating, people, and it's really, really scary. Frankencorn, exactly. So I want to thank Dave for coming.
Thanks.
And we want to leave on a high note always. Support your local farmers market. I cannot stress that enough. Grow your own veggies, people. That's what we got to do now. And above all, happy gardening, okay? Bye now.